Welcome to Inside Creative Minds. I'm your host, Trey Goodman. On today's show, we'll meet a painter who paints with everything but a paintbrush. And later, we'll meet a couple of creative people who make websites happen.
We met up with Kyle Georgry at his studio on Grand Avenue in downtown Phoenix.
Well, Kyle Georgry, welcome to Inside Creative Minds. And thank you so much for letting us be in your studio space here on Grand Avenue.
My pleasure.
I mean, I'm looking around and it's color and more color. Why do you create and what's the color all about?
Why do I create?
Yeah.
It's a way for me to express myself. It's a way to get things out of my mind. It's and my mind's full of color. It's just a bunch of color and a bunch of thoughts all going at one time, and it's my way of getting it out.
Are there any colors that you say gravitate to, or colors represent certain things, or?
I wouldn't say that. No, I really like black. I really like black.
Is that your favorite color?
I don't know if it's my favorite,
Yeah.
but I like black, and then I like red. I
Okay.
like those two. Yeah, they really do something
They
for me.
certainly pop. I mean, we're going to be looking at your work as we talk, and as you paint, you're sort of unconventional. Can you talk about that?
What I do is I roll out canvases on the floor, and then I look through any tools that might be around that might have in the kitchen, maybe a spatula or a grilling fork or a serving spoon, and then sometimes I create my own implements or tools. I'll duct tape things to bottles, and I'll.
Where did that get started?
I think really it was when I first started painting. I was trying to figure out how to get a lot of paint onto a canvas in a fairly quick time.
Okay.
Because I don't have necessarily that much patience when I'm creating. I want to see this come to life. I want to see this happen in front of me. And so I started off with a squeegee.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I thought of the shower. When you shower and you clean your bathroom, you clean the stall window or whatever, it's like, all that water just comes off that squeegee in a big
Right.
wave.
Yeah.
And I thought paint would do the same thing that water does. And so I started with a squeegee.
Well, let's talk about your background. How long have you been painting? And two, what was your background before that?
Well, I've been painting now for a little over 3 years.
Which is amazing to look at your work. I mean, you've only been doing this 3 years.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
And so the next question's got to be, everyone wants to know, what were you doing before you discovered you were an artist?
I think I was an artist in a way because I was teaching sixth graders.
Okay.
I was dealing with 180 sixth graders every day.
Wow.
So yeah, I taught sixth grades, basically social studies. I was elementary certified, but I taught sixth grade social studies for about 11 years.
But you're a painter self-taught, are you not?
I am, yeah.
I'll speak to that. I mean,
There's something that's there that's I'm not aware of myself even.
Okay.
It's a gift or a talent that I somehow uncovered one day when I was remodeling a home, and I thought there needs to be some art on that wall.
Yeah.
And I thought, why don't I just try to make something? And
Really?
it was about three and a half years ago that was the first time that I ever painted anything.
and how'd that make you feel?
Well, it was great, I guess, because I mean, people would come by to see the house, or my friends would come by and they'd
Right.
say, "Where'd you get that painting?" And I'd kind of sheepishly say, "Well, I made it." And then
And
they'd
what were their reactions?
Oh, they had great response. They were like, "Wow, can you make me one? Can you?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll give it why not?" So.
Well, your work is not titled, except for there's three pieces, which we'll speak to in a moment. But why is the work, for the most part, not titled?
Well, I believe as an abstract expressionist kind of painter that the image is really just a bunch of splatters or a bunch of drips or a bunch of poured paint on a canvas that I've created.
Okay.
And there's no way that finished product or that finished piece is going to be the same thing when someone else looks at it for the first time.
Okay.
So when someone comes in the studio and I think, what are they going to get from that, or what are they going to interpret that as, or what are they going to see? And I see if 1,000 people see a painting, I think there will be 1,000 different interpretations or views, and I don't want to have any influence.
Oh, by naming it.
By
something?
naming it,
Oh.
yeah. I don't want to have any influence on the viewer until they've been able to process or look at it or take it in themselves, because, and for me, I've named some because
three, right?
yeah, and I don't want to name the other ones because, to me, I think that will help. Maybe the piece can broaden rather than narrow. What I see happen for me is that when people, come in and they say, the painter is trying to express his feelings on, global warming or whatever, and that's what they're going to look at or try to find in that piece. Whereas if it's not named, they can look for whatever they want, or they can see whatever it is they're going to see, and then we can talk about it and have dialogue, and art creates dialogue. And that piece, instead of narrowing, can broaden. It can become those 1,000 different things. It can become those, infinite number of things over time.
Well, the viewers are going to want to know, and we're going to show them the three pieces that you did name and why you named them. It's What Are You Looking At, By Our Hands, and Gale, right?
Yep.
So a little bit about those.
Yeah. The first one that I did was Gail, and that was there was a couple. Well, a friend of mine had passed away, and I knew, and her name was Gail.
Okay.
And a couple had asked me to do a piece for her. So.
Okay.
And as it was coming out, I just thought, what can I name this? And it had started with a purpose. It started with Gail. It was a memorial of Gail.
Okay.
And so it had a purpose when I started.
Okay.
And I think that should be preserved. And,
Right.
and naming it over, that's what I think naming does.
And
is
the
it
other two?
preserves it, yes.
The other two?
The other two started,
Same way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking at is, it was for Free Arts Arizona, which is a program that helps youth that are having difficult times.
Okay.
And they do the Help Through Arts programs. And it was a fundraiser for that. And it was a charity fundraiser. So
So the three pieces that you've done are all really for a purpose, and so that's why they had
Right,
the name. And
yeah.
the third one is By Our Hands.
yeah, and it was to raise awareness for the infant mortality rate of the African American community in the Valley.
Okay.
And so it was an actual belly cast of a pregnant woman. And so they had an exhibit with probably 15 different artists in the community had done their own interpretation, or they all got a belly cast that they then were able to paint or to create a piece from. And so, yeah.
Well, how do you want people to respond to your work? I know you said you didn't name it intentionally, but what sort of response are you hoping for? Or
My favorite thing is when someone comes into the studio and they have this urge to go up to the piece and touch it, or they have this urge to go up to the piece and get really close to it, because my goal is to draw them in somehow. I want them to be drawn to the piece. I want them to, kind of interact with it and take it in. And I think that, if they do that, then I've been successful, because they want to see what, they want to walk up to it, and they want to, get deeper into it and look at it. And then the great thing is when they back away from it again, as they back away, or at least I feel as they back away, there becomes a total picture. If you're up close, you can see all these little tiny splatters or these little tiny little things. But then as you back away, then there's even a bigger kind of picture there, a bigger piece. So I love it when people step up and go back and
really just take it all in?
Yeah. So I think that's my goal, is to just have them get into it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, this is an artist statement you made. I'm going to read this and just sort of get a reaction from you. When I paint, I get lost. I get lost in a world where I wonder about things that trouble me. What is that?
My mind is always going. It's always constantly going. And when I paint, I'm able to really get into my head, and I kind of lose myself in the pieces that I'm working on. And I'm able to think about, anything that any big issues, any of the war or whatever it might be, that just is, or maybe my parents or my family or whatever it is that's on my mind.
Right.
I'm able to block everything else out, and I can really think. Then at the end I say I'm found, because I'm able to process all those thoughts, and I can, so it's a very cathartic process for me.
Well, what are your goals for the studio?
To survive, to make it, to always be here, to always have a place where people can come and say, I'll see you next month. I want to have a place for my art. I want to have a place for others, down the line.
So you really want to be a part of the art community?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, and you are now, of course.
Yeah,
but more so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a great. I'm new to the art community, and so it's a great group of people to be involved with, and it's a way to share things that I might not have the financial resources, so I can't, but I can share with my art.
Right.
I can share, that way, and so I just want to be a part of the whole scene.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about piece 89.
Okay.
I know that's sort of a special piece. It's about a 14-foot piece. Describe it, and what is that? Why is that piece? Why does that hold so much?
For me, it was a piece that, as I was working on it, and after I had finished it, I'd worked on it for probably about 24 hours straight. I just kept walking around. I had paint flat on the floor, so I walked around probably 200 or 300 times at least as I would throw paint on it, and I basically collapsed after it was done. I just went and passed out on the sofa because I was so tired. I just put all myself into it.
Like nonstop.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then when I left it to go fall asleep, I thought, if this dries the way that I hope it dries,
Right.
this could be a really, good piece.
Right.
And when I woke up the next morning, I saw it and I was like, wow, I need to call somebody. So I said, come look at this piece. And anyway, for me, it's
almost a defining moment, it sounds like.
Definitely. It was like a milestone. It was a touchstone. It was one of those things that what I'm doing, there's something there that I'm not aware of. There's this gift that I've been given.
Right.
And this piece was confirmation, or it was proof, I guess, if I needed proof. It was that this was it. I'm doing what I should be doing, and it feels like, I'm growing. It feels like I'm able to express myself. It feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
And that's got to be a cool feeling, right?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing to have that feeling. Yeah.
Well, Kyle, we're so happy that you came to the Valley. And the studio is always one that I stop by on for First Friday here on Grand Avenue. And I'm just so happy that you agreed to be on the show and allow us into your studio. And I hope one day we can catch up with you and see what work you're creating next. Who knows? I mean, as creative and as much color as you use, I don't know what to expect, but it'll be something very cool, I'm quite sure.
You're welcome anytime.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
You bet.
Cool.
When we come back, we'll meet the brains behind organic web design. But first, a short message from our sponsor.
Brought to you by SCF Arizona, the state's largest provider of workers' compensation insurance. We help Arizona workers stay safe while helping Arizona's economy by keeping insurance costs low, giving money back to businesses, and giving back to the community. SCF Arizona, at work for you.
Supporting locally owned businesses is better for the economy, builds unique communities, and preserves the environment. Find out more at localfirstaz.com. Think local, buy local, be local.
So Brad and Stacy, welcome to Inside Creative Minds.
Thank you.
And we're here in George Ray Studios in downtown Phoenix. And don't you think this is a pretty cool place?
Oh, it's awesome. Very cool.
Nice.
Well, you guys are part of a web design company, which you own.
We are.
And it's called Organic Web Design.
That's true. Organic web design.
What is that all about? What's that title about?
Organic web design was kind of built out because building a website is truly an organic process.
Okay.
I mean, it's something that kind of, starts with an idea and kind of, grows from there. And so we thought organic kind of, met that, kind of spoke to that. So we figured, hey, organic web design.
It's pretty catchy. Now, you're the owner.
I am.
And Stacy works for the company.
Yes, actually, Stacy just brought her on not too long ago.
So can you define the roles? Who's the techie?
I'm definitely the techie.
Okay.
Yeah, my background is more towards kind of the system administration and kind of the analytical side of computers.
Okay.
Front end, back end.
Yeah, exactly. Not to say that I don't have any front end skills,
wasn't
and not to
saying
say
that.
that Stacy doesn't have any back end skills.
Right.
But
The
it's
majority of.
yeah, we definitely kind of meet the both sides of the equation there.
But she's handling most of the artistic, creative part. I mean, is that a fair statement, or?
No, Brad's very creative.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess creative. I wouldn't call myself an artist by any means, but I see things and just want to build a website based on that, I guess.
Well, what is the thought process when you guys are building a website? I mean, I know you work with a client and all
Right.
of that, but I mean, take me through the process.
I would say, as far as running a business goes, you want to make your client happy. So that's kind of the first thing.
A lot of times the client doesn't know what they want.
That's very true. The client.
Clean and happy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
And
Trey said.
Yeah, there's a lot of words that you can kind of, if the customer says this, that means they want this type of thing. So there's a whole kind of correlation that goes on, on that level. But really, as a business, you want to, create something clean. A lot of our clients come from work that they've seen us do.
Okay.
And so they've seen something, they're
Right.
like, oh, I really like that. And so we've kind of narrowed them down in a sense, before they even really get to us.
So how did Stacy actually become a part? You started the company, and then
I started the company.
she became. So how did that happen?
I actually have a friend of mine who runs modernphoenix.net, which is a great website.
modernphoenix.net. And what is that about?
It's all about kind of
Architectural.
mid-century modern architecture and kind of some of the cooler architecture that's gone on in the valley here. And Stacy was actually a student of his, and I started organic, and it was kind of, I don't want to say side business, but it was kind of more of a creative outlet for me, a little bit straying away from my primary focus, but it was kind of ramping up, and I really needed a little bit of support, so we can kind of take on a lot of the work that came in. So I was looking for the right person, and when Matthew recommended Stacy, I brought her in for an interview. We kind of seemed to hit it off.
We
at
got
that
along.
The rest is
point.
history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Well, what does a web designer actually do? I've had people ask me that aren't on the computer side. They don't really know what a web designer does.
Well, I think a web designer knows what the end user wants. My degree is actually in graphic design, and I think that's very different because when you're on the web, you're using a lot of different technology. People navigate sites differently, and I think that a good web designer combines knowing how to create a site that people can go through smoothly, and also knowing how to code that site to make it function, because there's a lot of designers out there that can draw the front end, like make the interface, like just draw a picture and say this is what it's going to look like.
Right.
But then it's a whole nother thing when you have to actually make it work.
Yeah, a lot of that is what we call the UI, or the user interface.
Okay.
And so, like as a not only designer, but as a technical person that's putting pages out there, you want to think when it comes to a particular path that someone's going to go through on the site. You want to think, if they want to come to your site and they want to do this, you try to shorten that, how many clicks it takes to get there.
The
So
less
it's kind of-
confusion, the better.
Yeah. So that's really kind of our forte, is kind of keeping those, very simple, very easy to navigate, websites where you go there and it's an intuitive thing. Where you just kinda
Is
go
that
there.
sort of your philosophy then of building websites, or?
Well, I think in life generally,
Really?
the more simple,
Keep
the
it
better.
simple.
Yeah. It seems like, everyone's got a friend that, knows how to build a website, but like not everyone knows how to build a website well. And so, in life and also in web design, it's like, just keep it simple.
What are some don'ts in web design? I mean, just absolute. You got to be. I mean, you come across the site and you're like, you got to be kidding me, right?
When navigation is not consistent. Have you ever been to a website and you click something and it brings you to a different page, and then the navigation changes? It's at the top and then it's at the left, and you're like, oh, it's over here.
Bad.
That is my biggest pet peeve. I like things to stay where they are. Don't let the user be confused. Just know where everything is. They can navigate the site.
Right. That and the coming soon. You know, you never want to like, you know, have a little link that says like, oh, click on our photo gallery, and then you go to the photo gallery and it says coming soon. It's like, don't put a link there if it's not going to be there.
You think a lot of times people are probably just excited and they're trying to get up a lot of things on the site, and then they realize, oh, it's going to take longer, or I don't have this or that or whatever. Like maybe it's a friend building it or something.
Definitely, or it's this kind of slow type of thing. But you know, you're really off, especially as a business goes. You're better off putting less information that's, you know, well thought out and, you know, designed nicely and, you know, complete than put a bunch of loose ends up there, because that reflects in who you are as a business.
Well, what gets you guys excited about coming to work and doing web design? I mean, what are you thinking about when you're like, you know, the phone rings and somebody says, hey, I need a website?
I love when clients are happy with what I do. I like getting the feedback that's, hey, that looks awesome. I just really like giving clients, you know, the site that their vision. I like making their vision come to life on the web, and that just really.
But do you find that's hard to do at times because the client will,
doesn't exactly know what they want?
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, you'll hear certain words and that might mean that you need to do, they're not really telling you exactly.
And you know what I found out? I mean, I've been doing this for 13 years or something like that. So what I found out is that you can't just ask a client what they want and then expect them to tell you, and then you build a website like that.
You have to interpret it.
Yeah, you definitely have to interpret it. And there's, you know, what I always do is anytime, you know, I meet with a client, they know that they want to go with me, I just throw something out there, because you have to have a starting point. You know, you got to have.
So at least they might go, absolutely not that.
Exactly, but then you know where to take that from there. You know, and you know, oh no, they don't want a black background. You know, but you have to. You know, there's got to be a line in the sand where you say, you know, this is where we start from, and that's kind of goes back to that organic thing. It's like, you know, it's not. You know, you don't meet with the client and then, you know, they tell you how they want their website, and then you build a website and poof, it's done. You know, it's like it's definitely a very organic
it's a longer process than people think it is.
It grows really into the website they want.
I'm sure with you, the techie side, I mean, you've got to get all that code, as you called it or whatever. It has to be right.
Yeah. You know, if everything is structured properly, it's like an architectural drawing. You know, if everything is set up the way it should be, I can go in there and make that change in 30 seconds, then move on to the next thing.
Next 3, 4, 5 years, the internet, where's it going? What do you see? Web design changing about the same? Any ideas?
I think that web design is not necessarily web design. I think there's a lot of really good design out there. I just don't think that the sites
functionality.
Yeah, the functionality doesn't follow design. And I think that, you know, just like the first .com boom that happened, where everyone had an idea about a business that, you know, didn't really have any merit to it. You know, it's the same thing with design. There's been a lot of really cool designs that have come out, you know, but they didn't have the site, you know, or the interface to kind of support it. So I think that it's really going to kind of make a shift to where the usability is going to catch up with the design.
Okay. So now you guys are Webbers by day, but you do have some other artistic outlets, right? Like
Webbers by day.
Batman at night.
I actually have more of a fine arts background. I took private art lessons when I was a child, and eventually realized that the best way for me to pursue that as an adult was with graphic design. But I'm definitely really into painting and drawing, but I'll kind of just
and logos. I know logos for sure. I mean, I know they can go web,
design.
But
yeah, identity design is one of my favorites. I really like creating substance from a company, finding out their background. I'm big into research and really representing who they are. But as far as fine arts go, I really enjoy painting and kind of pick up anything around me and create something out of it.
Yeah. And you, Brad?
I'm really into manual labor.
Yeah.
We moved cement blocks yesterday for a good couple hours. Good time.
I've kind of gone into this whole mid-century thing, what I mentioned before, that modernphoenix.net.
Yeah.
And basically I've tried to take as many of these kind of, you know, really cool mid-century modern houses out there that I can find and, you know, kind of rehab them in a bit to make them more livable, you know, knock out a couple walls here and there, you know, and kind of make them, you know, cool spaces, you know, like actual functional spaces to live in nowadays. So that's kind of what I do, I guess, on the weekends.
Well, you know, we could talk for another 10, 20 minutes easy, but we're out of time. But I think we should catch up down the road, hopefully see where you guys are at, what you're doing. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
Thanks for having
you.
us.
Well, that's our show, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now remember, if you want to find out more about organic web design, go to their website at organicwebdesign.com. And Kyle at George Ray Studio says come on down anytime. And he's at 1007 West Grand Avenue in the heart of Phoenix. Hey, maybe I'll see you down there. Until next time.
Hey, do you have a comment for us? If so, call us at 480-969-3789. We would love to hear from you. And for more information about our show or to view any past episode, check us out at InsideCreativeMinds.com.
Welcome to Inside Creative Minds. I'm your host, Trey Goodman. This is in the shot or not? Look okay? My hair feels flat, but whatever. I was kind of wanting to put my hands in it. I never know what to do with my hands. Well, that's our show, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now remember, if you want to find out more about organic web design, go to organicwebdesign.com.